is don the appropriate PPE for using the test kits. EPA recommends any kind of latex glove. And keep in mind, even though the test does not have any lead in it, the card that comes with the test does. We're going to talk about how that works. So first thing you want to do, or first thing I want you guys to see, is that these is what the test kits actually look like. Now inside, how these things work, there's two vials inside with two different chemicals. The idea is that you crush one side and you crush the other side inside the actual test tube, and the chemicals start mixing together. Now keep in mind, you don't want to crush these until you're absolutely ready to start your test. These chemicals will remain active for only 90 seconds. That's how long you have to actually use this device. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is pick a surface that you're going to actually test. In this case, for our demonstration purposes, I'm going to use this wood. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a utility knife and I want to start scoring the actual wood. I want to actually get close. Put this down. I actually want to get through the paint into the actual substrate of the material. In this case, my piece of wood. Once I have a cut that's deep enough, then I will take my test kit. Right? And see where it says A? It says A and it says B. It says crush A and it says crush B. So the idea is that when I hit these two, right, I'm going to be able to not only feel it, but hear the crushing sound, to verify that the chemicals are actually mixing. So you want to feel it and also hear it. So once the capsules have been crushed, you want to shake it so that you know that all the chemicals are actually mixing together. This is what activates it. So they say shake it for about 90 seconds. About 90 seconds allow it to actually mix. Once it's mixed, you want to squeeze ever so slightly to see the actual chemical come through the tube. There we go. So you take this, and the idea is you're going to squeeze a little bit of that chemical on the actual. You want to squeeze the chemical actually on the piece that you prepped. And the idea is that you're going to keep swabbing. Now how this works is that if there's lead present, this is going to turn anywhere between pink to reddish. If it doesn't turn red or pinkish, then you're going to just keep swabbing for about 30 seconds. So far it looks like there's no lead present here. Looks like no red, no pinkish color, something like that. So the thing is, how do we ensure that this thing still works? How do we verify this? So also in the test kit, there comes this little card. This little card usually comes in the back of the test tubes. Now this card actually has lead on it. So that's why you want to use appropriate PPE before doing this. What this card does is that it actually will test the tester to be sure the tester works. So when I put this on here, I should get a red looking color because there's lead present. So check that out. So that means that this tester is actually working because there's lead on here and I got a positive result. So this works, and I know there's no lead present on my material. Now keep in mind, once you do this, you cannot hold on to this. You should discard this right away. You cannot reuse these test strips. I'm sorry, the test tubes rather. Alright. So don't forget that after you do your test, be sure to clean everything that you've used, right? Be sure to discard this properly. Be sure that when you use this to cut into material to avoid cross-contamination, that you clean off the blade and clean off the entire area. Now in some cases, you want to use an actual drop cloth on the area that you're testing. Some cases you want to use a drop cloth or a tack pad and actually use duct tape to affix it to the floor and wipe off the entire area by using any kind of disinfectant wipe to be sure you don't cross-contaminate any other area. Remember to dispose of everything in nearest trash that you have, right? Perfectly 3 to 4 mil garbage bag. There are some cases where when you use the testing, depending on what kind of paint that you're testing, you want to read the instructions on different kinds of paints. Why? There are some kinds of paint that you have to actually scrub longer, like certain base chemical paint. So don't forget to always read the instructions prior to use. So once you get your findings, you have to fill out one of these, test documentation form. Don't forget, this must be submitted. This must be submitted about 30 days after the renovation work is done. It must keep these records for 3 years. Don't forget that. So on the actual documentation form, you're gonna put the name of the owner, right? You're gonna put I'll put this was Miss Lopez. Right? You put the address, 65 city, state, zip code, contact, email, all this information goes. You have the same thing, right? Your initial address, where this work is taking, where the test is actually taking place, city, state, zip, certified firm name, the address, date, zip, all this stuff should be filled out. Now, when it comes to the actual test kit documentation, the results of the test, you're going to fill it out on the next page. So, manufacturer, in this case, we were using the instant lead check, right? This is made by 3M. You put the manufacturing date, you put the model number, serial number. Now, when it says expiration date, keep in mind, these test kits do not expire. So, under the actual, where it says expiration date, you're going to use, I don't know if you guys can see this, you're going to use the lot number. You can see that. This one says 930068. You use the lot number and you replace that where the expiration date is at. Now remember, when you submit this documentation, you're not going to keep the original. You're going to send in the original, you're going to keep yourself a copy. Once again, you're going to hold on to it for at least 3 years. So as far as notification goes, there's 3 different scenarios that can happen. Whether you're working in a home, whether if you're working inside someone's apartment or inside someone's unit, depending on the building itself, whether you're working in a common area, right? Hallways, lobbies, just common areas that people don't necessarily live in. And then there's child-occupied facilities. Don't forget, this is where children occupy the area for about 60 hours a year, the same child. So, when it comes to working at home, check this out. There's no time period set between the handing out of the book and the start of the work. For all these three, you have to be sure that you have the material before the renovation process begins. When it comes to homes, there is no set time period. So what does that mean? That means that as soon as I give in this document to the homeowner and they sign my receipt, I begin working right away. I mean, you probably don't want to do that, but the idea at this point in the EPA is that anytime after they get the documentation, then you can start the work. So, for common areas, also for child-occupied facilities, no more than 60 days before the beginning of renovation. Can't go over that. So not only that, for these common areas, right, the book, the pen that we hand out will go directly to the owner of the property, right? Why? Nobody's going to be living in the common area or in the child-occupied area, depending on this common area or not. So over here is common area, these books, right, the handouts are going to go to the owner of the building, the owner of the property. So let's say there's about a couple of scenarios that might happen. The most likely one, or the most one that everybody wants, is that when you hand in the book, the person will. Oh, why is this so hard? So not only that, for these common areas, right, the book, the pen that we hand out will go directly to the owner of the property, right? Why? Nobody's going to be living in the common area or in the child-occupied area, depending on this common area or not. So over here is common area, these books, right, the handouts are going to go to the owner of the building, the owner of the property. When you pass out these pamphlets for the actual tenants, always be sure to document every time you do so. It's required. So how do you document it? Well, there's actual receipt that you fill out. And on page 214 in your booklets, you will see a sample of the form. You can actually use this when you go out into the field. So on the form, it literally says, I have received a copy of the lead acid material pamphlet about me, potential risk, so on and so forth. It's pretty straightforward. So they print their name and they sign their name and then they put the date on it. And keep in mind, you have to hold on to this, right? Hold on to it for about 3 years. This is proof that you guys did your job. This is proof that you guys went out there and actually gave them the certificate. Gave them the pamphlet, and you go start work from there. So you look toward the bottom, right? There's some of the things that might happen, and they actually put this on the document. So let's say Well, the best case scenario is you go to someone's house, right? You knock on the door, and you say, hey, I got this pamphlet to give you because we're going to start some renovation. And the tenant says, okay, cool. So they take it from you, they sign, you keep this, and everything's good. So that's like the best case scenario, right? Cooperating tenants. But let's say one day happens that you have to go to the door, you knock on it, and the person comes out the door and has a very grumpy attitude. Well, what do? You try to tell him, hey, I got this pamphlet, he slams the door in your face. And you get a chance to talk to him. So in that case, what would you do? Would you curse back and start cursing you back about a really nasty exchange? What would you do? So if you look down here, right, check this out. Regarding mailing option. So let's say you're not able to talk to the tenant. The tenant was being really nasty to you and didn't want to accept it, or just plain refused to take in the pamphlet. You can actually mail it to the person's address. So when you do so, you want to keep in mind, alright? When you mail this, you still need proof that you went ahead and did your job. So what does that mean? That means that when you go out to mail this at the post office, you have to use certified mail. Certified mail will guarantee that you have receipts that they have to sign in order to get, so that you can have that as your documentation. So that proves that you tried to go ahead and do your job, and you got the receipt to prove it. So one last scenario: what if you're trying to give out these pamphlets, and it turns out that you can't find a homeowner, or you can't find a person living at a particular apartment? So it could be the person stepped out. I don't know, maybe he's on vacation, maybe he went out to stay at someone's house. And the thing is, what do? You just slide under the door, or what actions do you take? So in a case like that, you can't get a signature and you're not too sure what to do. Well, on the actual pre-renovation form, there's these two areas that says one, declined. I certified that I made a good faith effort in trying to get this information out. And then at the bottom it says unavailable for signature. And of course, I certified that I made good faith in trying to mirror the hazardous information pamphlet. So keep this on you. Make sure you sign it. Make sure your tenant sign it. Make sure you keep this on you. This is your proof. You will be asked for this. You can be asked for this, and you'll be able to have this when you're asked for it. So when it comes to common areas, the pamphlet goes to the owner of the property. But as far as having notices up, you want to put notices where it's easily accessible. You want to put notices where you can easily see it, right? Maybe when the mail is kept, maybe on the bulletin board, right? Put a notice here. Maybe right next to the elevator is a good spot for another notice. You want to be sure that it's very accessible, very easy for tenants to see, very easy for them to read, so they don't just walk right by it. Not only that, you want to be sure that these notices are in the same language of the building, main language of the building. So for instance, I probably wouldn't put a Spanish sign in a Chinese-speaking building. It's probably a bad idea. You want to be sure you know the languages of the building and be able to put the appropriate language, or your notice in the appropriate language, and put it in the appropriate spots in the common areas.